So there is this setting apart in the Abraham, who was not as individuals, but also as groups too. Abraham and his family came out of the lands where they were born and were going into the holy. The Israelites came out of Egypt. The pilgrims came out of Europe, and so you have this calling of coming out of and being set apart individually and as a group. So now, again, you don't know. Another part of this, so this is one of the reasons why you have individual liberty, is because your destiny is something that cannot be determined by a group, determined by the call of God. And no one can tell ahead of time who's going to receive that call, because throughout the Bible, one of the things that is prevalent is that the people who God calls almost never have an institutional position of authority. You could not predict ahead of time who this person is going to be. It's not the chief priests or the scribes or whatever. It's usually, you got the lowly fishermen, you got this, a lot of the prophets. They were not the leaders and pillars of society. So you never know who God is going to call. So there is an understanding that our destiny and our very fulfillment of our purpose requires individual liberty, because there's a destiny that we have that cannot be set for us by a group or by state or by anything else other than this individual calling out. And this individual calling out often requires a certain amount of solitude and silence to commune with God. So this was a very strong drive behind this American individualism. The purpose and dignity of the individual. It wasn't a selfish thing, and what we're going to be talking about now as we go into this calling apart is part of a process. This separating, being set apart. The process, again, we were talking about realizing this dignity of the human being created in God's image. So you got step one. You're going to call this person out and be holy. Now that's the beginning, but it's not the end. That person is going to go back into family and community and become part of the family and community, become a better part of the family and community for being called out and realizing the uniqueness and dignity as an individual. So first, you realize your dignity as an individual, and then you become part of a productive part of the community. At the point where Adam realized his uniqueness, and he realized that he didn't have a helpmate suitable for him, that's when God said, "It's not good that man be alone." And actually, Jonathan Edwards, America's theologian and philosopher, made the comment that one alone cannot be excellence. It requires a unity. And in the Genesis account, it talks about for this purpose, the man will leave his family and will cling to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So it talks about man and woman as two parts of the same whole, that they complete one another. So human beings are looking for completion and fulfillment in a relationship with God, but they're also looking for completion and fulfillment in a relationship with one another. The relationship that you enter into God through as an individual in solitude binds you to, brings you out of yourself, and that in an experience of love, which prompts you to embrace others. I mean, it's like, an urge that's can be only fulfilled in this self-given action where you reach out to others. Now, this action of reaching out to others through the family, started through the family. The family is cornerstone of all societies, as which you're going to find most sociologists will teach us, but the Puritans emphasize this with probably much more so than it has been emphasized in modern days. But because the prototype of society is the man and the woman the two become one. So that is a prototype. That is the DNA. That is the seed through which society exists. As the individuals called out become holy and responsible, mature individuals become at that point they become one. Now, one of the biggest problems in marriages is sometimes we don't get to point maturity before we enter into it, and probably maybe one of the causes of divorces or something like that. But ideally, the two mature individuals become one, and there's an insoluble bond. And this is, again, there's another session that we're going to go into. We're going to talk about the covenantal theology as it applies to family and society, and the role that family has in society. And we'll talk about it at a later date. But this, from the family, this blossoms out to the community at large, to church primarily first, the church. Then you have your voluntary associations, your civic groups, your 4-H clubs, your whatever, Grange halls, whatever. This was the social solidarity network that was created. And this gave rise to a notion that has become very prominent in what is referred to as classical liberalism. Today we refer to it as libertarianism, but it's predominantly associated with economics nowadays, and it's referred to as a spontaneous order. And what this means is that a society's order can be achieved without the coercive, socially engineered top-down interference by government, by people naturally working together and cooperating and sharing responsibilities. This is associated in many people's minds with an economic doctrine, but it did not start as an economic doctrine. It was a moral doctrine that came from the understanding of the mature individuals finding completion in society, and from, as we just mentioned, from society to church. That's where it originated in. One of the ones who most popularized this notion in secular terms was Adam Smith. And he's best known for his work, The Wealth of Nations, which is an economic treatise. But Adam Smith was a moral philosopher. And at the time of his writings, in his mind, his most prominent work was called Theory of Moral Sentiments. And Adam Smith's view was that human beings have a natural moral sentiment to reach out to another and to work for another person's good. This was a secularized version because his family roots was in Puritan. He was kind of from a Puritan family. So he is given a slightly secularized natural law view understanding of this Puritan understanding. And so we have this spontaneous order, this expressed in the social order that he talked about in his Theory of Moral Sentiments. Now, for a long time in American society, this was how most of the society was organized. When Alexis de Tocqueville, the French historian, came here in the 1830s, now he was one of many European thinkers who were interested in this experiment in liberty and created this. There was a whole political pilgrimage to America. You had Lord Acton, Alexis de Tocqueville. There was some of the people who became involved with the European abolitionist movement. So there was an interest in what was going on here and an excitement about it. So when Alexis de Tocqueville came here, and he traveled throughout America, so he wanted to see the key to this. And in his book, Democracy in America, he talks about this social network in America. And he says, Americans of all ages, all stations of life, and all types of disposition are forever forming associations. They are not only commercial and industrial associations, which all take part, but others of 1,000 different types. They're religious, moral, serious and futile, very general or very limited, immensely large and very minute. Americans combine great feats, found seminaries, build churches, distribute books, send missionaries, build hospitals, prisons, schools, and take shape what may. A lot of different activities. This is not done by government intervention. Finally, if they want to proclaim a truth or propagate some feeling for the encouragement of a great example, they form an association. In every case, at the head of every undertaking, where in France you would find the government, or in England you would find some territorial magnate, bureaucrat. In the United States, you are sure to find an association.